If you dream of an amazing adventure where the mountains are buried in tropical greenery and the ocean creates incredible landscapes, then this video is just for you. Today I will tell you about my trip to the island of dreams, Madeira. This island conquers at first sight, but I decided to explore it so that your interest in it will become even more. In this issue, you won't see a banal walk through the botanical garden in Funchal or standard tourist routes. Instead, I will guide you through the most picturesque and unconventional corners of Madeira, share my experience of traveling without renting a car, tell you about the most exciting trekking routes and the places where I managed to stay. Madeira is not just an island, it is a place where nature comes alive, where every morning begins with a view of the vast ocean and every evening ends with a mountain sunset. Let's embark on this journey together. Madeira has long beckoned me with its unique nature and atmosphere. It is a place that combines an incredible variety of landscapes, from steep mountains and gorges to rainforests and shores with raging ocean waves. I was looking for a place where I could combine outdoor activities with stunning views. I wanted to spend time in the mountains, walking along levadas, a unique system of canals surrounded by lush greenery. In addition, I wanted to feel the breath of the ocean, walking along paths where every turn reveals a new breathtaking landscape. Another plus point of Madeira is its climate. The temperature is comfortable all year round, making the island ideal for traveling regardless of the season. For me, this was a real boon. The opportunity to spend a vacation actively avoiding heat or cold. And of course, I was not without the influence of reviews. I read a lot about Madeira, watched photos and videos that made me want to go there immediately. In the end, I realized this is the place that perfectly meets my expectations. Madeira is an island where nature is not only pleasing to the eye but also inspiring. Preparing for a trip to Madeira turned out to be a very exciting process. Before going to the island, I spent a lot of time researching information, browsing blogs, reading tourist reviews, and watching videos of the most interesting places. The main question I asked myself was which cities and regions best reflect the atmosphere of Madeira. Most tourists focus on Funchal, as it is the capital and main port city of the island. But I decided not to stay in Funchal. Why? It's simple. It's too crowded and overcrowded with tourists. That's not really what I'm looking for when traveling. I prefer quieter and more secluded places where I can feel the real atmosphere of the island. The basis of my itinerary was the places I chose based on the following criteria: proximity to nature. I wanted to be as close to the trekking routes as possible so I didn't have to spend a lot of time traveling. Picturesque views. It was important to me to open the window every morning and see the ocean, mountains, or tropical greenery. Ease of getting around. Without renting a car, it was important to pick locations that were easy to get to other points on the island by cab or bus. I designed the itinerary to cover the main natural attractions and the most interesting regions: west of the island with its stunning pools and wildlife, north coast with spectacular ocean and cliff views, mountain regions with the best levadas for trekking. I chose a combination of public transportation and cabs to get around. This not only saved me time but also avoided the hassle of the roads, which can be quite winding and narrow in Madeira. As the trip progressed, I gradually adjusted my itinerary, adding places that were recommended to me by locals or that I happened to notice during my walks. This approach allowed me to see much more than I had originally planned and made the trip truly special. The journey to Madeira started with a flight from Warsaw. It was a direct flight which took only 5 hours. Despite the rather long flight, the time flew by unnoticed because the anticipation of meeting this stunning island kept me in anticipation. We landed at Madeira's International Airport, which is named after Cristiano Ronaldo. For soccer fans, this place can become an attraction in itself. Here you will see a statue of the famous soccer player. It is considered one of the most difficult for pilots because of its location between the mountains and the ocean. After landing, we were faced with a choice. What was the best way to get to our first stopping place? Madeira has several transportation options. Cab. We decided to take this option as it was the most convenient after the flight. A cab ride cost €56 and took about an hour. We chose the Bolt service, fast, convenient, and without unnecessary waits. Many travelers prefer to rent a car, but for us it was not the best option, as we planned to do a lot of hiking in the Levadas where a car is simply not necessary, and parking in Madeira is a challenge, especially in the mountainous regions. Buses. This is a budget way of transportation, especially if you want to feel the atmosphere of the island and are not in a hurry. You can look for tickets on special websites. I will leave the links in the description. We chose a cab not only for our first trip, but also for many movements thereafter. It turned out to be a convenient and fast way of transportation, especially when you need to save time. Already on the way from the airport, I started to get to know the island. The incredible ocean views, the mountain roads, and the green slopes around made me feel like I was in a completely different world. Madeira welcomes visitors from the very beginning in such a way that it is impossible to forget this trip. Our acquaintance with Madeira began with one of the most unusual and picturesque points of the island, Porto Moniz, located on its extreme western coast. This place immediately won me over with its natural uniqueness and atmosphere. This city is famous for its natural pools, which were formed from solidified lava. They are filled with crystal clear ocean water and surrounded by rocks, creating an incredible contrast between the calmness of the water in the pools and the turbulent ocean beyond. This is not only a place to relax, but also a real natural attraction. For me, it was the perfect start to the trip. A place where you can immediately immerse yourself in the beauty of Madeira, both literally and figuratively. On the first day, I just enjoyed those pools, listened to the sound of the ocean, and let myself relax after the long flight. The journey to this place was a mini adventure in itself. The roads in Madeira are winding through the mountains and offering stunning views of the ocean and green hills. It was a little intimidating at first, but pretty quickly I got used to it, and each new turn became an opportunity to see something amazing. The cab took us directly to our accommodation, which was very convenient. The first stop was perfect for acclimatization and starting our route around the island. In addition to the natural pools, there are several other interesting places to visit. Wave watching. The turbulent ocean in this part of the island creates an impressive spectacle. The waves crash against the rocks and can be watched endlessly. The cozy streets of Porto Moniz are ideal for leisurely strolls. Local restaurants serving freshly caught fish and seafood can be found here. Madeira Aquarium. If you are traveling with children or just love marine life, this place is worth a visit. The aquarium showcases the local fauna, giving you a chance to get to know the ocean ecosystem better. Our hotel was close to the pools, which allowed us to enjoy the quiet and views in the morning while most of the tourists were just starting to move in. The view out the window of the ocean and the sounds of the waves made my morning truly special. What did I realize on my first day in Madeira? That Porto Moniz is the place where Madeira immediately reveals its strengths, unique nature, peace, and the opportunity to feel part of this amazing world. From that moment on, I knew that my trip would be exactly as I had dreamed, intense, active, and incredibly beautiful. Our second day in Madeira started with an early rise. We wanted to see the sunrise, but as it turns out, things are a bit different on this island. The sun rises from the opposite side and the mountains partially cover the horizon, so the dawn is not so bright and colorful. Nevertheless, the morning light playing on the slopes and the ocean creates a very special atmosphere. After walking around and seeing Madeira for the first time in the morning, we noticed how quickly the weather changes. It's a common phenomenon on the island. Sunshine is replaced by light fog, and in an hour it can rain. All this adds to the charm and unpredictability of the trip. We chose a cozy cafe overlooking the ocean where we enjoyed fresh coffee and local pastries. It was the perfect start to a busy day. We went to the second hotel to leave our backpacks there. Check-in was only after 14 p.m. and it gave us a great opportunity to devote our free time to trekking. We opted for the Levada route number 1, which starts at the bottom of town and climbs upwards, offering spectacular views of the surrounding area. After overcoming the climb, we found ourselves in the upper part of the city, where we came across a small store. There we couldn't pass by the traditional sweets, the famous patelas de nata. These are pastries with a delicate cream inside, and they were the perfect snack before continuing on the route. There were not only natural beauties ahead of us, but also a few surprises that turned our trek into a real adventure. However, we soon realized that we had accidentally taken a wrong turn at the wrong viewpoint. Instead of following our original plan, we ended up on a path that led down to the ocean. The Levada we were following is meant for routes going in the opposite direction, but instead of turning around, we decided to continue exploring the uncharted path. The road became more and more scenic as the trail meandered among the green slopes and the waves of the ocean began to be seen in the distance. Although this was an unexpected turn of events, it added to the adventurous spirit of our day. After an hour and a half of descent, we found ourselves on the shore of the Atlantic Ocean. The view in front of us was simply mesmerizing. Powerful waves were crashing against the rocks, creating an extraordinary atmosphere of strength and harmony of nature. We stopped for a while to enjoy this moment. It seemed that time had stopped, and only the sound of water filled the space. After enjoying the views and taking a break, we headed to the Teleférico das Achadas de Cruz cable car, which took us back to the top. The cable car ride was just as impressive. The views from the top further emphasized the unique beauty of the place. On the way back to Porto Moniz, we had another pleasant surprise. We met a couple from Poland who offered us a ride. These friendly guys not only saved us time, but also gave us a few minutes of warm companionship. Guys from Poland, if you are watching this video, a huge thank you for your help. This day was a real adventure, full of unexpected twists and turns and discoveries. It is moments like these that make traveling unforgettable. After a busy trekking and 18 kilometers of trekking, we finally made it back to the city and checked into our second hotel. It was perfect for a relaxing vacation after an active day, and it also had a pool, which made it the perfect place to celebrate my birthday. After check-in, we cleaned ourselves up and had a little rest. But we didn't want to stay in the room for long because new impressions were ahead of us. We went swimming in the natural pools of Porto Moniz, one of Madeira's main natural attractions. There are two kinds of pools in the town: open pools, accessible to all, and organized pools with a ticket office and staff who look after the safety of the visitors. We were lucky and the pools were open, although they were closed the next day due to a storm. Swimming here was a real treat. Swimming in crystal clear ocean water surrounded by volcanic rocks is something special. For those planning to visit these pools, it is important to know that swimming here during a storm is strongly discouraged. Strong waves, dangerous currents, and sharp rocks can be deadly even for experienced swimmers. Therefore, always check the weather forecast and follow safety rules. After returning from dinner, we had a pleasant surprise. There was a bottle of champagne on the table and a note of congratulations from the hotel staff. We went up to the roof of the hotel where there was a swimming pool. There, under the starry sky, we opened champagne and celebrated my birthday in a cozy and peaceful atmosphere. It was that moment when you feel that everything is perfect: nature, atmosphere, and people around you. The next morning we woke up, having had a good night's sleep after a busy previous day, and decided to start the morning with a leisurely and hearty breakfast. After the meal, having gained energy, we decided to relax a little and went to the roof of the hotel, where there was a swimming pool. The view from the rooftop was simply stunning. We had a magnificent panorama of mountains covered with dense greenery and the vast blue ocean, which seemed especially mysterious and alluring in the morning sunlight. The water in the pool looked crystal clear and refreshing, but as it turned out, it was quite cool. After a little relaxation on the rooftop, we went back to the room, packed our bags, checked our itinerary, and hailed a cab. Our destination was a new place. Sao Vicente, a small but picturesque village that I had chosen because of its convenient location and incredible views. New adventures and more amazing discoveries awaited us in Sao Vicente. I chose Sao Vicente because of its location. This corner of Madeira perfectly combines everything I was looking for: stunning mountain views, proximity to the ocean, and the opportunity to retreat to a peaceful atmosphere away from the bustling tourist areas. I chose a hotel high up in the mountains where every window had a scenic view. I had originally planned to climb one of the famous levadas to enjoy the panoramic views and walk the famous mountain trails. However, after a busy and somewhat exhausting previous day, we decided to change our plans. Instead of climbing the mountains, we wanted to go down to the ocean to relax, enjoy its atmosphere, and breathe in the fresh sea air. We left our bags at the hotel reception, quickly checked the route, and started our descent. The way down was picturesque. Mountain trails were replaced by green slopes, and the sound of the ocean grew louder the closer we got. On the very shore, we came across a small but incredibly cozy cafe overlooking the water. Here we made a short stop to try one of Madeira's most famous dishes, lapis mollusks. I always enjoy trying new seafood, but I found the flavor of lapis to be unusual and off-putting. They had a slightly rubbery texture and a distinctive brackish ocean flavor. That's not to say I didn't like them, just that their flavor was completely different than I expected. If you've tried lapis, be sure to post in the comments whether you liked them and what you thought of them. I'd love to hear what you think. After a short break at the cafe, we continued our journey along the ocean, preparing for new discoveries and experiences. Next, we decided to walk to the neighboring town of Seixal, known for its volcanic sand beaches and stunning ocean views. The way there promised to be exciting. The route took us through narrow paths that passed right between the mountain slopes and the ocean. This road was truly unique, incredibly scenic, but also a little dangerous. The towering cliffs seemed monumental and awe-inspiring, while the sloping trees and mossy rocks created an atmosphere of something ancient and mysterious. We walked cautiously, looking around carefully because at any moment a rock could fall from the steep slopes. Nevertheless, the beauty of the surrounding nature overshadowed all possible dangers. On our way, there were small waterfalls that seemed to enliven the picture. One of them, the most impressive one, fell from a height directly onto the trail, turning it into a cool, wet tunnel. We stopped to enjoy this natural wonder, take some photos, and refresh ourselves under the tiny splashes. The sound of the water, mixed with the whisper of the wind and the cries of seabirds, made you feel as if you were in another reality, one where nature reigns supreme. However, the idyll did not last long. After a while, we came across the traces of a recent landslide. Part of the trail was covered with rocks, and it was too risky to go any further. We decided not to push our luck and went back a bit to avoid the dangerous section. Fortunately, there was a car tunnel nearby with a separate path for pedestrians. The tunnel, although gloomy-looking, proved to be a convenient and safe way to continue our journey. Once through, we were back on the ocean trail and were able to continue on to Seixal, enjoying a quieter route. This small detour reminded us how important it is to be flexible when traveling and to be able to adjust to unexpected circumstances. In Seychelles, we planned in advance to have dinner at one of the local restaurants, which is famous for its unique serving of dishes. Here, each guest is given the opportunity to cook the famous Madeira kebabs on an open grill. This process not only adds to the interactivity of the dinner, but also allows you to feel a special connection to the local culture. The restaurant is located on a terrace with a stunning view of the ocean. The atmosphere was truly magical. The calmness of the ocean, the aroma of cooking meat, and the slight sound of the wind created an inexpressible sense of harmony. We enthusiastically started grilling the meat over an open fire, enjoying the way it acquired an appetizing flavor and golden crust. Dining overlooking the ocean while enjoying our own hand-cooked meal was an unforgettable experience. I will leave the address of this restaurant in the description below the video so you can easily find it. I'm sure this dinner will be one of the highlights of your trip. Seychelles is also famous for its amazing volcanic sand beach, which is considered one of the pearls of Madeira. The black sand, formed from ancient lava, gives the beach a special, almost mystical look. This beach invariably attracts tourists from all over the island, as there are few places like it in Madeira. The main feature of this beach is its safety for swimming. Unlike many other places on the island where the ocean is famous for strong currents and waves, here are ideal conditions for those who want to swim in peace. Special breakwaters protect the shore, turning the coastal area into a natural pool of clear water. It is pleasant to walk barefoot on the warm, velvety sand, enjoy the fresh sea air, and admire the fantastic views where the power of the ocean combines with the green mountains on the horizon. This beach is the perfect place for a vacation, where you can sunbathe, swim, and just enjoy being one with nature. As the day began to draw to a close, we decided to wrap up our adventures and head back to the hotel. It gets dark quite early in Madeira, and by 6 p.m. a thick gloom had begun to envelop the city. The ocean had stopped shining in the sunlight, and its waves began to seem more mysterious and deep. We hailed a cab and headed to the hotel. On the way back, we enjoyed the night views of the island. The streets, illuminated by the soft light of lanterns, looked completely different from the daytime, and the mountains, shrouded in evening mist, seemed mysterious and unapproachable. It was a moment for quiet reflection when all the events of the busy day seemed to come alive in my memory. Back at the hotel, we finally allowed ourselves to relax. The fatigue was slowly fading away, replaced by a feeling of deep satisfaction. Every kilometer traveled, every moment when the beauty of nature took our breath away, and even the difficult moments of the route, all this made the day unforgettable. This day gave us so many emotions that it seemed as if we had lived a whole small life. Tomorrow something new was waiting for us, but this evening will forever remain in our memory as one of the most vivid memories of the trip. This day started for us even before dawn. We woke up in complete darkness, quickly got ready to waste no time, and left the hotel. Ahead of us was a walk to the bus stop, which was about an hour's walk away. The air was fresh, and the surrounding silence was created only by the whispering of the waves in the distance and the occasional singing of birds. The sky was beginning to lighten slightly, and you could feel the new day slowly approaching. The road to the bus stop was pleasant but demanded attention. There are narrow paths that wind among trees and small houses. We walked at a brisk pace, stopping occasionally to enjoy a moment of peace and quiet. By 7:45, we arrived at the bus stop in Sao Vicente, where our trip began. It was the morning flight to Funchal, the capital of Madeira. 2 hours of the trip flew by unnoticed. The mountains covered with morning mist, the coastline where the first rays of sunlight were playing, and cozy villages as if cut out of a postcard. Thus began our busy day. We set off for new experiences, ready to meet Funchal and its beauties. At 9:45, we arrived in Funchal, the capital of Madeira. This place is certainly impressive in its scope, but we decided not to stay here for long. Funchal is a bustling and lively port city that attracts thousands of tourists. Its streets are crowded with people, and you can feel the hustle and bustle on every corner. Of course, this has its own charm. The atmosphere of a big city, a lot of cafes, restaurants, and stores, but for us this noise was too intrusive. We preferred to leave Funchal as an intermediate point on our itinerary. We had time to walk around the city a bit and check out its famous Mercado dos Lavradores market. To be honest, this place disappointed us. The market turned out to be a typical tourist trap. Inflated prices, crowds of people, and the atmosphere that the guidebooks promise is lost amidst all the hustle and bustle. One of the main attractions of Funchal is the cable car that leads to the botanical gardens. The view from the cable car is truly breathtaking, with the city in the palm of your hand and the picturesque mountains stretching ahead. But unfortunately, we didn't have time to visit the botanical garden itself, as we had further to go. After a short walk and a brief introduction to Funchal, we headed to the bus that was taking us to Canical, our next stopping point. Funchal was left behind, leaving a slight taste of the big city and a desire to return here, perhaps at a less busy time. After a bus ride, we arrived in Canical, a small and cozy town in the east of Madeira. This town was our choice to stop for 2 days due to its unique atmosphere and convenient location. There are fewer tourists, more tranquility, and yet it is perfect for exploring the eastern part of the island. Before checking into our apartment, we decided to stop by the local store to buy a bottle of Madeira wine, some cheese, and olives. After we finished shopping, we called the owner of the apartment. To our surprise, we were checked in much earlier than scheduled, which was a pleasant bonus. The apartment turned out to be spacious. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a cozy living room. I will leave a link to the apartment in the description under the video. However, it was still too early to rest. We quickly packed up and headed to the Ponta de Bode viewpoint, which is nearby. The road to the observation deck proved difficult. The incline is almost 45 degrees. The higher we climbed, the more we admired the views. Once we got to the site, we opened our Madeira wine, got some cheese, and had a little picnic. The view was stunning. The vast ocean, the cliffs jutting into the water, and the light sea breeze. This moment was one of the most memorable of our trip. A moment of tranquility and beauty that I wish I could capture forever. After a walk and a rest, we returned to the apartment. Tomorrow a new day was waiting for us, which meant new discoveries. The next morning we set our alarm clocks before dawn. Our goal was to see the first rays of sunlight illuminate the Atlantic Ocean and create the very magic for which many travel to the east of Madeira. From the evening we had thought of all the details. We charged our cameras and phones, chose warm clothes as it could be chilly in the early morning, and studied the route to the location in advance. Getting up so early is certainly a challenge, but it's worth sacrificing sleep for such views. When the alarm clock rang, the city was still asleep. We quickly packed up, grabbed a thermos of hot tea, and headed to our chosen spot to shoot the sunrise. Walking up to the observation deck in the dark added to the atmosphere. We walked along, lighting the way with flashlights, and gradually began to see the sky begin to turn delicate shades of pink and gold. When we reached the right place, the sun was just starting to show from the horizon. The view was so mesmerizing that we forgot about everything: the early awakening, the chill, and the tiredness. It seemed as if the world had stopped to enjoy this moment with us. We took tons of photos and videos, but it was important to not only capture the sunrise, but to experience it. It was the perfect start to the day and gave us energy for the next adventures. We decided to prepare for our last adventure on the island, the final trek to one of Madeira's most famous viewpoints, Ponta do Furado. This route is known for its spectacular views and challenging trails, so we decided to make it easy on ourselves and leave all unnecessary things at the apartment. Before starting the main route, we made a small detour and went to the Ponta do Rocheto lookout point. This point is famous for its stunning panoramas. On one side you can see the endless ocean, on the other, the rocky cliffs that seem to go beyond the horizon. Here we took some photos and had a little break, enjoying the morning fresh air. After a short pause, we headed towards the start of the Ponta do Furado trail. As we approached, we noticed more and more cars in the parking lot, and the trail itself was filling up with hikers. Since the trail is considered popular, there was a fee to enter, only €3 per person. It was a bit of a surprise, but after seeing the beauty around us, we realized it was worth it. The preparations were complete and we were ready for an exciting trek along the very edge of the island. The first steps on the Ponta do Furado trail seemed deceptively easy. Wooden decking, flat paths, all this creates the illusion that the route is suitable even for beginners. After a few minutes, however, the scenery began to change. The decking was replaced by rocky paths, and gentle sections gave way to steep ascents and descents. We followed a winding path framed by majestic cliffs on one side and endless ocean vistas on the other. The wind is particularly strong here, and you have to be careful on the bends so you don't accidentally lose your balance. Despite the challenges, the natural surroundings were breathtaking. Moments like these remind us why it's worth overcoming challenges for the sake of an experience like this. Before another ascent, we unexpectedly came across a small oasis in the form of a local cafe. This place became a real salvation for us. We stopped for a snack and some rest. A light sandwich and a cool drink gave us strength for the further way. Such a cafe on the trail is a rarity and a pleasant bonus for tired travelers. After a short break, the most difficult part of the route began, the climb to the top of Ponta do Furado. The trail became increasingly rocky and the steps along the way were broken in places. We noticed that the support ropes were covered with small metal jagged edges, so we had to be very careful when holding on to them. Underfoot, slippery pebbles added to the difficulty, and some hikers even tripped and fell. This made us walk as carefully as possible to avoid injuries. Despite the difficulties, the climb was worth every minute. The summit greeted us with dizzying views, with the ocean stretching to the horizon and rocky cliffs adding drama to the landscape. We snapped a few photos standing literally on the edge of the island to remember the moment forever. At first, everything went according to plan, but the weather in Madeira is always a surprise. Suddenly it started to rain, which turned into a real downpour in just a few minutes. Good thing we were prepared and brought raincoats. Without them, the descent would have been much more difficult. The rain had turned the trail into a slippery, muddy path. The rocks, which were already difficult to descend, were now a real challenge. Every step had to be taken carefully to avoid slipping. The water was flowing in streams, mixing with the dust and turning it into sticky mud that stuck to our shoes. We quickly realized that filming the road down was almost impossible. The camera would get wet instantly, and our hands were busy holding onto the rocks and keeping our balance. Despite all the difficulties, the feeling of joy at reaching the bottom of the route was incredible. We were tired, but we felt proud that we had made it through in such conditions. Our faces were glowing with happiness despite the rain and mud. However, the adventure didn't end there. We still had to get to the apartment. The journey took about 2 hours, and by the time we got back, we were completely exhausted. The first thing we did was to wash our dirty clothes. Luckily, there was a washing machine in the apartment. While they were washing, we had time for a quick refreshing shower and to think about where to have dinner. We started with a visit to a fish restaurant nearby, but here we were in for a surprise. For some reason, the order was mixed up and our patience ran out. We decided to go to another restaurant, which was right below our apartment. This turned out to be the perfect solution. We ordered the octopus and the local lemon punch, which pleasantly surprised us with its flavor, so much so that we couldn't resist ordering again. After dinner, we went back to our room to rest. This busy day left us full of impressions, but also completely exhausted. Tomorrow was the last day of our trip and the flight home, so it was important to get a good night's sleep. The next day we woke up, enjoyed a leisurely breakfast, and started packing. After all these eventful adventures, it was time to say goodbye to sunny Madeira. We called a taxi and headed to the airport to fly back to cloudy but familiar Warsaw. This island left warm memories in our hearts, and we're already dreaming of coming back here again. Thank you for joining us on this amazing journey. See you next time.